What exactly is fascism? And why do historians consider it one of the most destructive political movements in human history? Before we dive in, many people struggle to define fascism beyond basic terms. They know it's bad, but can't explain the specific characteristics that make it so dangerous to democratic societies. Today we'll break down fascism using clear academic definitions and historical examples. By the end, you'll understand its key features, historical impact, and why scholars study it so carefully. Let's examine fascism through 5 essential components. First component, ultranationalism combined with authoritarianism. Fascist movements promote extreme devotion to the nation above individual rights. They reject democratic institutions and concentrate power in a single leader or party. This works by appealing to people's desire for national pride while gradually dismantling checks and balances. The benefit of understanding this is recognizing how democratic institutions can be systematically weakened. Second component, the cult of action and violence. Fascist ideology glorifies action over deliberation and often promotes violence as a legitimate political tool. Fascist movements typically organize paramilitary groups and use intimidation tactics. This functions by creating a sense of urgency and justifying extreme measures. Understanding this helps explain how political violence becomes normalized in fascist systems. Third component, rejection of modernism and intellectual discourse. Fascist movements often promote anti-intellectualism and reject rational debate. They prefer emotional appeals and propaganda over factual analysis. This works by simplifying complex issues into us versus them narratives. The benefit of recognizing this pattern is identifying when legitimate debate is being replaced by propaganda. Fourth component, economic nationalism and corporate partnership. Fascist regimes typically maintain private property but subordinate business interests to state goals. They often promise economic revival through nationalist policies. This functions by appealing to economic anxieties while maintaining support from business elites. Understanding this explains how fascist movements can gain support across different social classes. Fifth component, scapegoating and the creation of internal enemies. Fascist movements identify specific groups as threats to national purity or security. This creates unity through shared hatred rather than shared values. This works psychologically by redirecting social frustrations toward targeted groups. Recognizing this pattern helps identify when political rhetoric becomes dangerous. Now let's examine historical examples. At first, you might think fascism only existed in a few countries. However, fascist movements appeared across Europe and beyond during the 20th century. The most studied examples include Mussolini's Italy from 1922 to 1943, Hitler's Germany from 1933 to 1945, and Franco's Spain from 1939 to 1975. Each regime displayed the core characteristics we discussed while adapting to local conditions. These movements led to devastating conflicts. World War II, which killed an estimated 70 to 85 million people, stemmed directly from fascist expansion. The Holocaust, genocides, and massive civilian casualties resulted from fascist ideologies being implemented through state power. After studying these patterns for several decades, historians have documented how fascist movements typically emerge during periods of economic crisis, social upheaval, and political instability. They exploit democratic freedoms to gain power, then systematically eliminate those same freedoms. Try this approach. Spend just 10 minutes reading primary historical sources about fascist movements. Look for the 5 components we discussed. You'll start recognizing these patterns in historical context. Remember, understanding fascism isn't about current politics. It's about historical literacy. Small investments in learning history create big improvements in understanding how political systems can break down and why democratic institutions require active protection.